You have not yet heard about the bad news that was slipped into Proposition 19. That was, if you remember, the one that looked like it was about protecting wildfire victims. And it did, and that was fine. But it also included the biggest tax increase in California history on property targeted at people who have just lost a parent. So if you're in that situation, or you know somebody who's in that situation, and you're getting these letters from the tax assessors, and you say, what happened here? How did this, when, what? Give us a call, and we are here to take your questions. 415-808-5600. 415-808-5600. We're here on KSFO. 415-808-5600. 415-808-5600. We're here on KSFO. Created by Proposition 19. We call this repeal the death tax because this provision functions exactly like a death tax. Somebody passes away, you get a giant tax increase, but not just once. It's not like an estate tax. What's happened here is we have lost the ability, we had a constitutional right for more than 30 years for parents to transfer property from themselves to their kids or the other direction without a change to the tax bill. It didn't count as a change of ownership. So there was no reassessment when property was passed from parents to children. That was the home of any value plus up to $1 million of assessed value of other property. So that would be maybe a rental house or a duplex or a business property or a vacation cabin or a small apartment building that someone has owned for a long time. Those kinds of properties, up to $1 million of the assessed value plus the home could be transferred to the kids with no tax increase. That got into the Constitution because the legislature put it there. The legislature passed that unanimously in 1986. The voters approved it with a 75% margin, and now it's gone. It's gone. And so is the follow-on protection for grandparents and grandchildren, which applied the same rules if the children's parents were deceased. So the grandparents could pass property to the grandchildren with these same protections. And now that's gone. Where did they go? Proposition 19 in 2020 contained fine print, not emphasized in the advertising, not emphasized in the flyers you got in your mailbox, that took those protections away. And we think the voters were tricked. And we want this back on the ballot for the voters to look at again and decide in the clear light of day whether they want that parent-child protection back again. And we know they do. You get the call, Scott. Tell us how people are reacting to this.
I mean, yeah, we get all the calls, Susan, and a lot of them are very dramatic. I mean, people are losing their long-held family properties, and just the stories we hear all the time are really quite tragic. I don't really like talking about it too much because it honestly gets me a little emotional. Just the things people are going through. I think the one surprising thing that I didn't even realize, every day I'm someone finding some new wrinkle that some group has been affected by this. Is really the parents of children with disabilities. I didn't realize how many people had these kind of complicated trusts that were set up in a way that would allow child with disabilities to stay in the family home. And the small amount of money that they got through Social Security or Medicare or whatever was going to pay the low tax base. And then, the rest of the money in the inheritance was going to pay for a living caregiver or something like that. And now that the property taxes are going to double, triple, quadruple, it's thrown that completely for a loop, and they have no idea what they're going to do. And it's just really tragic hearing these stories. We hear them all the time.
This is one of the most awful parts of this is that people have trusts, and they went and they created planning to take care of their kids, and it's all thrown out now, because what's happening under Prop 19 is that when the property is transferred from parents to children, it counts as a change of ownership now. So everything is reassessed to current market value. Well, if you have long-held family property in California you are certainly not paying taxes on market value. You're protected by Proposition 13. So your assessed value only goes up 2% a year. You don't get a market rate assessment on your property the way they do in other states. Prop 13 protects you from that since 1978. But now, when property is passed from parents to children, the trusts don't help you because the assessors look right through the trusts. They always did. It's clear glass to them. They look right through the trust and they see who is the present beneficial owner, and they do the assessment under the law according to that. Well, now the law says that if parents transfer property to children, it's reassessed to market value. And here's the kicker. We were told in the commercials that there was protection if a home that belonged to the parents became the principal residence of the children, supposedly no tax increase. But that was a lie because there's a limit on how much protection you get. So essentially the way it works is if you have a home that is assessed value $600,000, but it's worth $1 million, then this is how much you're okay because, see, now I've scrambled my brain. Here we go. If it's worth, you get $1 million plus the assessed value in protection if you move into the residence that was your parents' principal residence and make it your principal residence within a year. You get their assessed value plus $1 million. So the way it would work if it was assessed at $600,000 is you add that $1 million, you have 1.6 million of protected value, no tax increase. But suppose it's worth $2.6 million because you live in the Bay Area and everything's worth $2.6 million. So now you've got $1 million that's unprotected. And that means you've got 1% of that, which if I do the math correctly is $10,000 a year in tax increase added to your old tax bill. And that's a lot of money to come up with, not once, but every year as a condition of keeping your property. So even if you follow these guidelines in Prop 19 and you move into the house that was your parents' principal residence within 1 year, you fill out the paperwork and you get it all in on time, you could still see a crushing tax increase. And if you don't move in, or if it's not your parents' principal residence, if it's a house that they don't live in but they still own, and you inherit that house, reassess to current market value as of the date of transfer. Even if you want to sell it, you're going to owe those higher property taxes for the whole time, probably a year or more, between the date of transfer when you inherit and the close of escrow when you sell. You owe the market rate property taxes for that. This is crushing people. It can be tens of thousands of dollars that people have to come up with. And you have to make these decisions within weeks, months of losing a parent, which is not the time that you should be making big financial decisions that are irrevocable. That's not, everybody will tell you in this kind of planning that you should wait, and you should wait at least a year. But you can't wait a year. You have only a year to make that decision about moving into your parents' house. And of course, if it's not your parents' house, then you don't have to make a decision. It's just going to be reassessed. And your decision is whether you're going to sell it or keep it. So one of the things that we have seen is that this affects affordable housing. This affects apartment buildings. How many apartment buildings in California are owned by mom and pop landlords? And many times the tenants are living in the units at below market rents, and it's working for everybody. But now that property is passed to the next generation, reassessed to current market value. And now the tax bill has made the whole business model unsustainable. So what happens to the tenants? Most likely, that building is going to be sold and the tenants will be evicted. And how much affordable housing are we going to lose in California because of Proposition 19, because of this ridiculous, sneaky tax increase that no one knew was in there? This makes me so angry. And Scott, how does this affect small businesses?
I mean, it affects any property where the property is owned by a person, right? If you own a property and it's in your family name, it's going to fall into this trap. And I want to go back, Susan, because even you got tripped up, explaining Prop 19, and I think that just goes to show how needlessly complex Prop 19 is. We had a pretty simple system under Prop 58 193 And this just blew the doors off. You know, it's incredibly complicated. It's not really well written. The assessors sent like 16 pages of fixes to the Board of Equalization that they wanted before they could get, they even wanted to implement this. They just said it was lacking. You know, the text was lacking in so many important questions. And, you know, the assessors themselves really don't like Prop 19. It's hard to implement. It's not completely clear. They don't like being the bad guys in all of this, but they have to be because the Constitution says so. And we're asking people to make probably one of the most important financial decisions in their lives under this just haze of uncertainty, complexity, and confusion. It's no way to run a railroad.
So true. But we're going to fix it. We're going to fix it. And here's how we're going to fix it. In California, since 1911, we have had the initiative power, and we are using the initiative power to write a new constitutional amendment that puts back what was lost. We're not touching the other parts of Prop 19. It will still protect wildfire victims. It will still protect seniors who want to move to a new home 3 times anywhere in the state. But this tax increase on inherited property passed from parents to children, that's got to go. So you can help. Go to repealthedeathtax.com. REPEAL, repealthedeathtax.com. And click that link that says download the petition. And when you do that, you'll get a PDF file with 5 pages in it. The first page is a cover sheet, and it has a little clip and tape mailing label to just tape to the envelope. Very simple to get this back to us. You don't even have to write down the address, just clip out that little mailing label and tape it to an envelope. Then you'll see the instructions, which are color and illustrated. Then you'll see a flyer that explains by just basically in bullet points what this is about, which it just simply says parents should be able to transfer their home and limited other property to their children without triggering reassessment and a huge tax increase. That's what we're doing here. We're putting it back. You'll also see the disclaimer of who is paying for this. Nothing sneaky here. This is paid for by Repeal the Death Tax, a project of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. It is all paid for with small donations from people all over California. And thank you so much for your support, which is coming in every day and helping us by advertising. We launched radio commercials today, and you're helping us do that. And thank you very much for that. And the last page that you'll see in the PDF file is the petition. It only fills 1 page, 1 regular letter-sized page. In any printer, any kind of paper, just print the petition. You don't have to print the other pages if you don't want to. Just print the petition, fill it out, sign it, fill out that little declaration of circulator at the bottom. That's the little statement that says, I saw the person sign this. Well, you did. You signed it and you saw yourself sign it. So you are the circulator of your own petition. Or you can be the circulator of someone else's petition. So you can print multiple copies and then you can hand them out to friends and get their signatures. Fill out that little declaration of circulator, sign it, put it in the mail to the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. Very easy. Everyone in California can do this at the same time. We have no logistical barriers here. Nobody has to wait for the mail to come. Nobody has to go out to the supermarket and look for someone with a clipboard. You can do this in your house. Or you can call our office and we'll mail the petitions to you. If you don't have a setup with a printer or it's difficult for you, we're happy to send you the petitions by mail. You can also go to an office store, Staples, Office Max. You can go there and go to their little print center and say, there's a file online and I want to print it, and they'll print it for you. And then you just fill it out, mail it back. We need 1 million signatures by January 16th into the Howard Jarvis offices. You can't return these to the county yourself. We have to take them to the counties all at once after we get all the signatures by January 16th. So what we need you to do is tell everyone. Tell everyone. Talk to your family. Talk to your friends. Text everybody the link. Repealthedeathtax.com. It's very easy. You can do it in 5 minutes. And when you do it, you will be helping to reverse the biggest tax increase in the history of California. You know, we think this is really important. The Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association was founded to protect Proposition 13. Because Howard Jarvis is one of the people, one of the principal people who put that on the ballot, who fought for that to be on the ballot, who collected the signatures. And they all came in, he told us in his book, they all came in the last 2 weeks, which is going to drown us in paper. So if you're out there collecting signatures, please help us. Send them back now. Send them back soon. Don't let them stack up on the table. Send them back, and we have to process them. We have to sort them into 58 different counties and deliver them all separately to all the county offices. That's the way this works. This is the 1911 procedure for the initiative. Has to be paper, has to be ink. Can't sign electronically online. That's not valid. 1911, just keep remembering it's 1911. It's paper, ink, postage stamp. And we'll get this done. And once we get it done, it'll go on the ballot November of 2024. And we're very confident that once on the ballot, this will pass, as it did before. Wouldn't you say?
It polls very well. I mean, we've done polling, and this polls very well. We think if we can get it on the ballot, it passes. The hardest part of this initiative is going to be, and has been, qualifying it for the ballot. We're very confident that we can get it passed if we get on the ballot. That's why we need your help.
We do. We need your help. You can get a banner. If you want to contact our offices, we can send you a banner. If you want to set up a table or you have a wall or a fence that you want to hang it on, let everybody know about this. The petition, as I said, is just an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, one side. It's printed on regular paper, and it has room for 2 signatures. So all you have to do is write in the county. There's a little line to write in the county where everybody's registered to vote. And then 2 signatures. You print your name, you sign your name, you write the residential address where you are registered to vote, and then your city and zip code. And then, as I said, you fill out the declaration of circulator, which just attests that you are the person who saw someone sign the petition. And it's really, really easy. Some people have asked us why we don't have longer petitions with more signature blocks on it. And the reason for that is because we're encouraging people to make copies of the petition, to print as many as they like and to make copies. And the state of California has very strict laws about font size to make sure that people don't use tiny little fonts to squeeze in more material or something else. So there's a minimum font size. So we were worried that people might make copies of a legal size piece of paper and shrink it to letter size, and then none of the signatures would be valid. So that's the reason. I know many of our volunteers, and we have thousands of volunteers working on this, many of our volunteers have asked us for longer petitions, but that's the reason we're not doing it. We're hoping that what everyone will do is contact all their contacts and say, go to repealthedeathtax.com and download the petition. You can give us a call at 415-808-5600, 415-808-5600. We are live on KSFO AM in San Francisco and KSFO.com, everywhere, streaming live and taking your calls. We are really committed to this, and it's something that we tried to do last year, and we didn't make it, which was frustrating. We had a long petition. We had to mail it out to everybody, and they had to mail it back to us. You only have 180 days to get this done under state law, which is why we decided that we would try this with a one-page petition that people can print at home. And we think that this is the future. We think that this is the way that grassroots politics can be empowered in California. Because as you know, you've lived here for a while, grassroots politics is dedicated to making sure your taxes don't go up, and everybody else is dedicated to making sure they do. And so we want to make sure that taxpayers have a voice in this state, and that they aren't tricked and they aren't swindled by tricky ballot titles and language in the summary that is misleading, if not outright false. So we're very concerned that everyone should get involved in this. We can do many things with a one-page petition, and we're doing this first. We're going to reverse the biggest property tax increase in the history of California. So how is it going, Scott? We're getting a lot of petitions in the mail?
We are, and it's certainly, I'd say from the beginning, we're doing better than we were last time, right? Because last time we had to wait a couple of weeks just to print the things, and then we had to ship them out to everybody. We had to get them back. I mean, we hit the ground running like first week petitions back. So I would say we're doing better than we were last time. I think we're starting to see a real dramatic kind of increase in the number of petitions we're getting back. I actually was on a call this morning, and one of the folks that is helping us collect signatures also was on the call and mentioned that they've noticed kind of an uptick in interest, signature gathering, and those sorts of things. So we're certainly kind of seeing it really ramp up here in the last 6 weeks or so of us trying to do this. So, and like you mentioned, Howard Jarvis, all the petitions came in 2 weeks. So I don't think we're done. I think I'm very excited about this, and I think this is repeal the death tax is important, but also just this one-page petition idea I think is a very important model that we need to try and get across the finish line here, because citizen democracy in the state is very hard, very expensive, and we got to find a way for the grassroots to do it. And that's what we're going to try and do.
Absolutely. California has the most expensive media markets, and it's a big state. It's a lot of people to reach. Mail is expensive. Everything's expensive. Television's very expensive. So we are looking for ways to get our message out as well and clearly as we can to as many people as we can. So we are out right now on 12 radio stations that launched today with brand new radio spots, and you can hear those new spots on our website at repealthedeathtax.com. You can also hear them here on KSFO. We just did. So they will be running on KSFO in San Francisco, on KABC in Los Angeles, and on 10 more stations up and down the state of California. So you'll be hearing it. And then when people ask you, did you hear about this? You can say, yes, I did. And Susan and Scott are there every Friday night at 6 p.m. on KSFO, answering your questions and talking about this. You can call us at 415-808-5600. One of the things that is really notable about this whole effort is how Prop 19 has had a negative impact on generational wealth, particularly in historically disadvantaged communities. Because one way that you build wealth in your family is through real estate. You pay those mortgage payments for 30 years, and then you've got something that has appreciated, that's holding value even against inflation, and you give that to your kids. And now they have an asset that they can rent out for income. So wherever they're living, they have another house that they can rent for income. Should those people be penalized by the tax code so that when they inherit that property, it's reassessed to current market value and they have to sell it? And if it is a rental property, what happens to the tenants? Well, they're out. They're out because if not, then the rent's going to go up to cover that new tax bill. No one can control the value of real estate in California. And you shouldn't be taxed on that. You shouldn't be taxed on these paper profits because inflation is pushing up the value of real estate. This is really concerning. And it's affecting families that don't even know yet how it is going to hurt them. And when they find out and they get these tax bills for tens of thousands of dollars more than they're currently paying, be sure to tell them to go to repealthedeathtax.com, get the petition, tell everyone they know, and the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, with your help, is going to fix this. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back in a few minutes with your calls at 415-808-5600. This is the Repeal the Death Tax Petition Party.
Talk Radio 560 KSFO.
San Mateo Bridge, we have a crash eastbound right before the tolls. Two cars in the left lane. You are backed up all the way across the span to the west end, which is not pleasant at all. San Rafael, a 3-car wreck cleared from lanes. South 101 at St. Vincent Drive. You're tied up from Novato Boulevard or 37, whichever you prefer. That's your traffic. I'm Brian Drake.
This report is sponsored by Boost Infinite.
Boost Infinite's new wireless technology gives you 3 networks for the price of 1 and better service at a lower price. Switch today. Visit boostinfinite.com. That's boostinfinite.com.
Immerse yourself in premium nationwide coverage, contract-free plans, and always free activation with Consumer Cellular, now at your local Target. While you're there, check out our newest phone, the Iris Flip. It's all the phone and camera you need. Plus, it features a user-friendly design, making it the perfect flip phone. From now to December 16th, you can score $10 off when you buy the Consumer Cellular Iris Flip at Target, making it only $39.99. Visit your nearest Target for the full scoop.
Paid for by Wesley Financial Group.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-462-3333. 800-462-3333. 800-462-3333. The wait is finally over. This season, give your loved ones the best holiday gift. Shenyuan, coming to San Jose, San Francisco, and Berkeley from December 29th, and showcasing the lost culture of ancient China through music and dance, bringing majesty, beauty, and hope. Tickets at shenyuan.com/CA.
Do you miss the simplicity and reliability of a landline?
With the landline service, conversations were never cut off because your internet stopped working.
Your grandkids couldn't lose your home phone on some playground.
Now landlines are back and better than ever with Community Phone. Community Phone offers home phone service starting at just $39 a month. And today, get 50% off your first month. With Community Phone, there are no contracts, no internet needed, no complicated wiring. A classic landline, but with the latest upgrades like caller ID, voicemail, spam call blocking, unlimited nationwide calls, and more. And the phone works even if the power goes out. You can even keep your own phone number or get a new one. You can set up your home phone service with Community Phone in 30 seconds, all by yourself. Today, get 50% off your first month when you call 1-866-716-5440. Call 1-866-716-5440 today to get 50% off. 1-866-716-5440.
What's holding you back from learning the language you've always wanted to know?
Too hard.
Takes too long.
Not with Babbel. Babbel's lessons take just 15 minutes a day.
15 minutes isn't long.
Nope, and they're fun.
Fun isn't hard.
Right. Babbel's interactive lessons, podcasts, games, and more make it fun and engaging, so you don't realize you're learning a language, but you are. And Babbel's lessons are built around real life. You can choose from topics like travel, business, relationships, and more. You'll learn what matters most to you. Plus, Babbel's lessons are designed to get you speaking right away. In 3 weeks, you're able to start having conversations.
Just 3 weeks. Even better.
Since Babbel's lessons are designed by language experts and voiced by real native speakers, you'll get the accents just right and be able to carry on conversations with confidence.
Learning a language with Babbel doesn't take long.
And with Babbel, it isn't hard.
It's perfect.
Start learning a new language today. Go to Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
It's time to take back control of your money, your assets, your complete financial portfolio. The days to buy and hold your investments have passed. Today's markets require a more sophisticated approach. At O'Donnell Financial Group, our approach with your portfolio is in front of a dedicated advisor who actually has the time to advise you on real-world opportunities and alert you to changes in the markets. We'll give you the tools to know what your investments and net worth look like down to the minute every day. At O'Donnell Financial Group, our responsibility is to you and what is best for your financial future. For a no-cost, no-obligation consultation today, call Greg O'Donnell at 866-496-2300 or go to odfigroup.com. O'Donnell Financial Group, because planning is a process. Investment advice offered through O'Donnell Financial Services, LLC, a registered investment advisor, registered representative offering securities and advisory services through Independent Financial Group, LLC.
Talk Radio 560 KSFO. Like us on Facebook at 560 KSFO and stay up to date on the latest events. Talk Radio 560 KSFO.
Welcome back to the Repeal the Death Tax Petition Party. I'm Susan Shelley with the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, and we're here to take your calls. Let's talk to Tony in Southlake. Gotten a lot of
cabling up here in South Lake Tahoe, and people always want to know, well, if we don't pay this tax, we won't be able to fight all these wildfires. And so I know there's a special fund that's been created. I want to know how much of the Prop 19 tax has actually gone to wildfire prevention, so I can provide an accurate answer.
Tony, I'm so glad you asked. The actual amount that Prop 19 has provided for the wildfire fund is, for 2 years in a row, Scott, drum roll,
0.
0 is correct. 0. It seems that the way that the calculation is working, when you raise property taxes on Californians, they deduct that from their state income tax. And so income tax revenue goes down, even though state property tax revenue goes up. And the way that this is working, it's almost like Hollywood accounting for profits, 0, no matter what, 0. So it was really just put on the ballot to swindle voters into thinking it was going to help fight firefighting, help fight wildfires rather, and help the firefighters. But it always was at best going to be a trickle. That's how it was described to me by the firefighters themselves, a trickle. And they wanted it, but 0, not even a trickle. So you can just tell them that this is not the way to fund firefighting. The way to fund firefighting is from the general fund budget. That's a priority. That's a statewide priority. And it doesn't have to be funded on the backs of people who have just lost a parent. It's ridiculous. We funded firefighting before Prop 19. This was just a trick to make it look on the ballot like something people would support. Thank you for the call, Tony. Let's talk to Greg in Vacaville. Hi, Greg. We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
You're on the air. Yes, we can. You're on the air. Hi, Greg.
Yes. I truly hope that this goes through. I know we attempted to rescind Prop 19 last year, and I don't know what really happened to that. I don't think people really understand what was happening back in 1978 or approximately thereof when Prop 13 was getting pushed through. I was a senior in high school, and we were told that schools were going to close. I wasn't going to finish the second half of my senior year. There wasn't going to be any police or fire protection, all sorts of fire and brimstone, dogs and cats living together. That was going to happen as a result of it. But I don't understand why we didn't succeed last year. I thought we got sufficient petitions last year. And even though I'm a member of the Howard Jarvis, the Taxpayers Association, they were conspicuously absent when this proposition was brought on the ballot in the first place. So that's kind of all.
Well, thank you. We weren't really absent. We were very busy fighting the split roll proposal, which was Proposition 15, and that took a lot of our resources. And we're a small organization. I mean, we're mighty and we work hard, but we're a very small staff and a very small organization in terms of the numbers. We did everything we could, and we almost beat it. We almost beat it. It was very close. I think it was within 1%, and it was the last race that was called in the 2020 cycle. And, you know, we worked very hard to get the word out to our members and to everyone. I personally drove around with signs and talked to groups all over the place and gave interview after interview. And we really tried to get the word out. And we did come close, but the proponents of it spent $50 million mostly on television, spreading false stories and disinformation and saying it wasn't a tax increase. That's what they kept saying. It's not a tax increase. They said this is the best thing on the ballot for taxpayers, but it wasn't. It's a tax increase on people who have just lost a parent. So what happened with our effort last year is, as Scott was saying earlier, we had legal size petitions. They were like 8 pages. It had all the legal language from the Constitution that we were going to edit, that we were going to amend. It had all these columns of information. And that was one way you can do it. And so we were having them printed commercially. It was very complicated. It folds in a certain way. And then we were sending them out to volunteers. And now we've lost weeks. It takes weeks to get them printed. It takes a lot of time to get them packaged up and sent out to people. And then they would circulate the petitions and send them back to us. 75% came back at the very end. And we got about 400,000 signatures, a little more than that, but we needed about like 950,000 that year. So that's what happened. You know, we got close. We were on the right track, and we certainly know that people are concerned about this. Part of our challenge is getting the word out that this has even happened, that Prop 19 has done this, because a lot of people don't know. And many of the people who are out collecting signatures tell us that people come up to the table and they say, well, what is this? Because they hadn't heard of it. So we are working very hard to pound the table and tell everybody that this is a huge tax increase on property passed from parents to children. And we don't need that. We don't need to raise taxes in California on people who have just had a death in the family. That's not how you fund a budget. This is just, it's just another way of forcing people to sell. There are a lot of people in California who don't really like property rights, and they don't feel that people should be able to pass property to their children, and they argue for estate taxes. But you know what? Estate taxes are unconstitutional in California. Why? Because in 1982, the voters said, we don't ever want that. We don't ever want an estate tax or a gift tax in the California tax code, 1982. And in 1986, we had this protection for parent-child transfers because after Prop 13, as prices were being pushed up, the legislature said, well, when somebody dies, that's a change of ownership, and that's going to be reassessed to market value. So upset were the people of California that the legislature did something about it. Imagine that. The legislature passed unanimously this parent-child transfer protection. And then the voters approved it by a 75% margin. And it's gone. But we can put it back with your help. Please tell everyone you know to repealthedeathtax.com. Go to repealthedeathtax.com. Thank you for everything you're doing, Greg. We really appreciate all the volunteer efforts that everyone is
Can I
doing.
add one thing?
Sure.
What I'm doing is I am ponying up a stamp and putting the proper address in with the ballot in there, and I'm circulating those to all of my neighbors. So
Great.
to me, it's well worth 50 cents to get those additional signatures versus paying $20,000 in additional tax rates.
Wow. $20,000. It's
appreciate
hard
all
to come
your
up with that
efforts.
kind of money. Thank you very much. Appreciate the call, Greg, and thank you for everything you're doing. Let's talk to Irene in Richmond. Hi, Irene.
Hello.
You're on the air. Can you hear us?
Yes. I'd just like to know who are the authors of this death tax name.
I'm going to turn it over to Scott to tell the story of how this happened to us.
So Prop 19 has a pretty tortured path to the ballot. It started actually a number of years ago as Proposition, what was it, 5? Susan, I think it was Prop 5. And Prop 5 was done by the California Association of Realtors, and all that was you could take your Prop 13 with you if you were over, because there's 3 parts of Prop 19, right? There's the part we're talking about, what we call the intergenerational transfer, but there was also portability. And portability is this ability to take your Prop 13 with you. When you move, if you're over 55, severely disabled, victim of natural disaster, you can move and take your Prop 13 with you. They wanted to increase, you could already do it, but they wanted to increase the number of times you could do it. They wanted to increase the value of a home that you could go to, because before it was to a house equal or lesser value. Houses are getting very expensive in California. It wasn't really working for people. They were trying to fix that. That's all it was. And it passed. And kind of what they found was they were told that they needed to find something that made this revenue neutral. Let
me stop you. The they is the California Association of Realtors Sacramento office. That's who that is.
Yes. They were told that they need to find something that is revenue neutral by the powers that be, the legislature, the special interests, all of them. And so, this was the solution. And ultimately, who put it on the ballot was the legislature, because once you collect enough signatures, there's this reporting requirement to the legislature, and then they have a chance to talk with you about it. And so they made a deal. The legislature put it on the ballot. The legislature actually missed its own deadline to put the measure on the ballot. They didn't get it on the ballot in time. So you know what they did? They changed the rules because they can do whatever they want. And when you voted yes or no on Prop 19, you thought you voted on that during the general election. Actually, you voted on it during a special election, because they made it a special election that ran concurrent with the general election because they can do whatever they want. They miss their own deadlines. Who cares? We're going to put it on the ballot. So, I mean, I think the ultimate culprit is the California state legislature because they are the ones whose fingerprints are on the final product, the thing that was on the ballot. That's who you can blame. It was ACA 11 in, gosh, what would that be, Susan? 2020? Was that the?
2020, yes.
So you can go back on the legislature's website, type in ACA 11 2020, and you can see all the names of everyone who voted for and against it.
Yeah. So the legislature's website is leginfo, leginfo.legislature.ca.gov. leginfo.legislature.ca.gov. And then you click for the bill information search link, and you're going to put in the 2020 legislative session and ACA 11, and you'll be able to click the tab that says, show me the votes, and you can get all their names because they shouldn't have done this. And they rushed it through without any hearings. And they didn't even listen to the assessors. You know, at the very least, they should have had a hearing where the assessors could testify publicly and talk about the problems with implementing this, which are massive problems with implementing this. Not to mention that they don't want to be sending out these letters that arrive in the mail with the sympathy cards to people who have just lost a parent. What are you going to do with your property? You're going to move in within a year? Because otherwise we're reassessing it to market value. Pay the cashier. It's pretty harsh, and they don't want to be doing that. They don't want to be doing a lot of this stuff. But the legislature rushed it through, trying to get it on the November 2020 ballot. And as Scott said, they missed the deadline. They passed a special law to make it a special election concurrent with the November general election. So it's all on the same ballot. But it was a special election because they missed the deadline. And then the next thing you know, it takes effect just months after they finish counting the votes. They finished counting the votes in December of 2020. It takes effect in the middle of February, 2 months later. And in the middle of a pandemic with the government offices closed, over the holidays where people couldn't reach their lawyers, their accountants, couldn't get an answer to their questions, people were in a panic. And estate lawyers and accountants and people who deal with this kind of stuff, with trusts, with estate planning of all kinds, they were beside themselves. They couldn't get answers to their questions. Nobody knew the answers. As Scott said earlier, the assessors came in with a list of fixes that the thing needed just so it could be implemented. And I think maybe 10% of those actually got done. So it's still a mess. The assessor of Los Angeles County, Jeffrey Prang, has called this a dumpster fire. And we're going to fix this. We're going to fix this part of it because we know that the people of California do not want family property reassessed to market value when passed from parents to children. I mean, anywhere in California, market value is crazy high. And for long-held family property, people can't come up with that money every year to pay those tax bills, thousands or tens of thousands of dollars more. And as I said earlier, a trust does not protect you. Nothing protects you. There's nothing you can do. And people are just getting slammed and they don't even know. You know, many people who are not, they're not accustomed to doing elaborate planning. They buy property, it's in their own name, that's it. A lot of people who have businesses, a lot of immigrant families who run businesses, don't have all of this information yet. And when the older generation passes and the kids inherit the business, how is that business going to be viable with this new tax bill? What's going to happen to all these little restaurants that just hung on during the pandemic? And now they have debt from everything that went on there. And maybe they had to build a patio and whatever else, and they got a mortgage on the thing again. And now it gets reassessed to market value. And they have to come up with that money every year. Because property taxes are a tax on what you already own. It's very severe to do that to people. It's different than an income tax. It's different than a sales tax. It's even different than an estate tax. A property tax, no ability to pay factored into it, no breaks, no deferrals, pay up or sell. And if you sell, you get the cash, but the cash loses value to inflation. And the property appreciates, and somebody else owns it. And this is not good. It's not good policy. It's not good for small businesses. It's not good for tenants. It's not good for families. It's not good for anybody. So go to repealthedeathtax.com. You can do it. Repealthedeathtax.com. You don't have to be technologically savvy. Go to repealthedeathtax.com. Click the link that says download the petition. That will open a 5-page PDF. Print the last page. That's the petition. Fill it out. Complete instructions are included. Fill it out, sign it, mail it back to the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. And if we get 1 million signatures by January 16th, we will rock the world. This will be on the ballot. Grassroots politics, fixing what's broken in California. That's our goal. Let's talk a little bit about some of the people in the legislature who were trying to fix this problem. For instance, Senator Kelly Sayarto introduced SCA 4, which would have been a legislative constitutional amendment. Tell us about what he felt when he saw this pass.
Well, SCA 4 was essentially what we've put here in the petition for you. So he tried to work through the state legislature, because if the state legislature puts on the ballot, it's a lot easier for us, right? We don't have to go through the signature gathering, as you saw with Prop 19's path to the ballot. So we were really hoping that we could get some traction. There seems to be an acknowledgement in the legislature that this was not the best idea, but they also don't seem to be interested in doing anything about it. But Kelly Sayarto stood up and said, well, I'm going to try and do something about it. And, he got us to a hearing of the Senate Committee of Governance and Finance. I was surprised. We tried to run this bill a year before. We didn't even get out of the Rules Committee. That's the committee it goes to where they decide what committee it's going to go to. And we didn't get out of that. So I was really impressed by his efforts, his Herculean efforts to try and get this somewhere. And, he tried his hardest to twist the arms of his colleagues to get this thing through, and they're not interested. So we have to do it. That's become clear to me, Susan. If they're not going to do it, we have to do it.
Yeah, we have to do it. And that's why we have the initiative process. It's there for when the legislature and the government are not doing their job for the people of California. It's there so we can write our own laws, our own constitutional amendments, and put them before the voters for approval. And then they're just as much a part of the Constitution as if they were written in 1849 on a piece of parchment during the gold rush. Once we do that and we put it on the ballot and we get it approved, that's the law. And that's what we have to do here, because this is a serious problem. And the government seems to think that if they can just get all of your money, everything will be fine in California. But that's not really working out all that well. We already have the highest income taxes, the highest state sales tax, sky-high gasoline taxes, you have utility taxes, you have all of these taxes that you're paying in California that are higher than other states. And now this. Now your parents have tried to take care of you, or you've tried to take care of your kids, and you've made mortgage payments for 30 years, and it's family property, and you own it. And that's a tremendous accomplishment. And you are building generational wealth yourself with your own labor. And you are helping your kids have a better future in California. And now this. Reassess to current market value. And the kids are probably going to have to sell property that they would rather keep. And it's terrible for everybody. And it shouldn't have happened. And I think it was an extremely deceptive campaign. Those commercials, those mailers, they were very deceptive. And people were tricked. And, everyone always asks us, who writes those titles and summaries? And who writes those ads? And, well, the answer is not us. If we wrote them, they'd be clear. And that's a project for another campaign. But we are determined. We are determined to get the word out. So please pick up your phone, text everybody you know to go to repealthedeathtax.com. Click that download the petition link, fill it out, sign it, mail it back. 1 million signatures by January 16th, and we will get this done for you. You can call us at 415-808-8888. 5600 415-808-5600. Let's talk to Vaughn on line 3. Hi, Vaughn, how are you?
Hey, Susan, good. Thank you for everything that you guys are doing.
Thank you.
You know, I heard it. I've been one of your volunteers for a while, and I heard what Scott said earlier, that some of these stories are really hard to listen to because they're just so bad. And, you know, being one of your volunteers for a while, I've heard a lot of really bad stories, and there's some that are just really bad. And I heard one today, and I've thought about it on and off throughout the day. And I should note, this is not my story, and I didn't hear it firsthand, so I couldn't ask the people questions. But I'll tell you what I did hear. They're a 4th-generation family, been in the same house 4 generations. They're a Japanese family, and the home has been in their family for 70 years. And I thought about that, 4 generations, and they're about to be reassessed, or they recently got reassessed. I'm not sure which, but likely could not afford the reassessment. 4-generation home, you know, potentially going to lose it. And it you know, was disheartening, but this one kind of stayed with me. And again, I don't have all the facts. I'm kind of guessing a little bit, but you know, you hear a lot of stories, but I mean, Prop 19 affects everybody horribly, or most people horribly. But I've heard a lot of minority stories, and you know, Japanese people are not necessarily a minority they heard that much about. And again, I don't have all the facts, but I was thinking about it. If that Japanese family was in the U.S. 10 years prior, they likely didn't own a home, and they likely were like a friend of our family's that was actually in an internment camp. And I was just thinking about it, like the family potentially like made it through World War II, got out of the internment camp. Somehow 10 years later, they're living the American dream. They save up their money. They're working hard. They buy a house in, you know, roughly 1953. They get into the 70s, and they almost, I'm guessing, potentially could have lost the house then due to very high inflation, property taxes going up every year. But your organization, the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, comes to the rescue with Prop 13. They make it another 30 years, and somehow this invisible thing called Prop 19, that's supposedly about, you know, helping wildfire victims or something, very deceptive, as you just mentioned, takes them out potentially. That little radio ad, sponsored by a $50 million campaign, is potentially going to strip this family out of their 4th-generation home. It's ridiculous.
It's horrible. And as you mentioned, there are ethnic groups that have had historical disadvantages, and they have climbed out. They have climbed out through property ownership, and they are doing well, and they want to leave something to their kids and build generational wealth and security. And instead, they're essentially being invited to leave the state of California because they're going to be reassessed as if they're the Hearst family or the Getty family, and no one should be allowed to have all that wealth. And they're going to be reassessed until they sell, because you've got to come up with this check every year as a condition of keeping that property. And when it's reassessed to market value in an inflationary time like this, that's very brutal. Something I do want to mention is that our initiative is retroactive. So if you were burned by Prop 19 for a parent-child transfer, this initiative would allow you to get your Prop 13 protected assessment reinstated. You would be able to get that back again. So that's what this measure does. It restores the ability of parents to transfer property, their home, and a limited amount of other property to their kids without a tax increase. Retroactive, special protections for farmers so they aren't worse off after they had some help after Prop 19 passed. That's what's in this measure. And you can get all the information at repealthedeathtax.com and join the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association at hjta.org. I'm Susan Shelley, Vice President of Communications for the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. For Scott Kaufman, Legislative Director, thank you very much for being with us tonight. We'll see you next Friday at 6 p.m. Tell a friend, repealthedeathtax.com.
Seating ad was paid by Repeal the Death Tax, a project of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. The views, opinions, and beliefs expressed are those of Repeal the Death Tax, a project of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, and don't necessarily reflect those of the staff or management of Cumulus Media or other partners.
Talk Radio 560 KSFO San Francisco.